So this morning I was riding my bike to the station and I went to park it in the regular place that I would just go to park it. And then as I was walking out of the area, there was another old lady who was walking her bike into the entrance. So then I moved out the way and then she walked past. And as I did that, I saw her kind of look in my direction and mumble something to herself like, "Oh, Nande," something. And for some reason in my head, I somehow just assumed that she was talking about me, or she was mumbling about why I was there, and so I very politely asked her, all in Japanese, said, "I'm sorry, what did you say? Like, I missed what you said." And she just turns, looks at me and says, "Oh, I was just wondering why there were no bikes parked on this side, but there were bikes parked on that side." I was like, "Oh, yeah, I was wondering the same thing too. All right, have a good day." And I left. I don't think it stems from like narcissism or me thinking that the world is out to get me or anything like that. I think it goes a bit deeper than that, but I definitely had a reminder of the fact that she wasn't mumbling under her breath like, "Oh, these damn gaijin are everywhere." It was really just a moment of my own insecurities and my own preconceived ideas about what other people think of me getting in the way of reality. I shared this little anecdote on my Instagram story this morning as well, but I felt the need to make a video about it because this is my 5th year living in Japan. I work in a theme park here in Tokyo, and I used to work in a theme park in Osaka, and I work with about between 50 to 100 other expats, all from Australia, America, England, Canada, all around the world. And every year is a new bunch of expats come out and experience Japan for the first time, and it's funny to see the shift that happens when you first move to Japan. You move to Japan and you're like, "Wow, this place is amazing, everything is convenient, people are so nice and friendly," and blah, 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 blah. It's like this honeymoon period of this country can do no wrong to me. And then it slowly shifts to a bit of a stark realization of, oh, some things are a bit more difficult to deal with than I thought that they would be, or some things are a lot harder to do than I thought they would be, like going to the doctors, or little tiny frustrations start to get to you and you start to feel like people are being disingenuous with you. They're not being honest when they say "onegaishimasu." Like, are they actually saying like "please do your best," or are they just saying that because it's an obligation? It's kind of like, oh, country isn't what I thought it was. And then people either come out the other side going one way or the other. The first option is that they just get bitter and jaded and they end up hating Japan and they feel like the world is out to get them, and you'll be like, Japan is racist and this country sucks, and then they leave the country with this negative idea of what the country was. Everyone has different experiences, of course. This is just my generalization from what I've seen of the about 500 expats coming and going in Japan that I know quite well. It's easy to get fed up with being in a place if you've been there for a long time, and sometimes it just doesn't gel with your personality or gel with your work ethic or the way you like to do things, and that's completely fine. Or they can go the other way, which is you'll come to the realization of, not everyone is like this, and you'll learn to accept the things that you can't change, and you'll learn to adapt to your surroundings, and instead of going to the grocery store and looking for that brand of chocolate that you miss and you had back at home, you'll just settle for the Japanese version of it because you're living in Japan, and why not? I had a couple of bad experiences with sexual harassment and sometimes sexual assault, and I'm not going into that now, but I had a lot of bad experiences with older Japanese men, and it really, really got me down. For the longest time, I struggled so hard to not be constantly looking over my shoulder and constantly scowling at older men, being like, "Why are you looking at me? Why are you standing so close to me? Why are you walking next to me?" Stuff like that, because I was so paranoid, and I had this basically trauma that I went through, and it really got me way down in the dumps. I remember I was at the convenience store and I saw this girl who I think she was buying something, and then she finished buying it, and then the man behind her stepped in behind her like to take her place to also go and buy something from the register, and she got so instantly scared. She jumped basically out of her skin, and she looked terrified. She looked completely terrified, to the point where I think she said something, or she made a noise or some kind of gesture. Everyone in the store kind of stopped and looked at her, and she was just like terrified and basically ran across the road, like ran out of the store. And you know, the man behind her was like, what the hell was that? And he looked a bit upset, like visually kind of like, what are you doing? And it was that moment that I realized I could either choose to live my life in fear, or I could choose to move on from it and to just keep my head down and do my own thing. And I realized that the more you stare at other people, and the more you look at other people being like, why are you looking at me? Why are you staring at me? And the more I've come to realize if someone's looking at you, you're instinctually going to look at them because you can feel someone's eyes on you. So if you're looking around at everyone, of course people are going to be looking back at you because you're looking at them and they're wondering the same thing. It's like this big cycle that you'll never get out of if you keep feeling like the world is out to get you and feeling like this country hates you, so go home. So in the company that I work in a Japanese company, but there's a lot of expats around, so it's people that speak English, but it's hard to not, because I'm studying Japanese, so I study a lot by listening. I listen to a lot of conversations that happen in Japanese and conversations around me. I'm not fluent at all, and I don't understand absolutely everything that goes on, but most of the time I can understand 90% of what's going on around me. What I've come to realize this year especially is that 99.9% of the time they're not talking about you in a negative way. They're not saying like, Hannah's ugly, or Hannah's fat, or Hannah did this, Hannah did that. They're usually saying, hey, that rhymed. But I've never heard someone actually bitch about me, or anyone else around me actually. It's so easy to look at it and assume that it's going to be a negative thing, especially if you've already had a negative experience in the past. It's shaping your experience into something that it may not be. We all know that when you assume, you make an ass of you and me, and it's so true. It's so true. I felt like an ass today. I felt like a complete ass, and I very sheepishly was like, oh shit, she wasn't talking about me at all. Of course, there are some people that maybe they don't like gaijin foreigners in Japan, and I'm sure there's a bunch of foreigners as well that come to Japan and they don't give other foreigners a good name. Logan Paul. For the most part, no one's talking about you. In Japanese culture, as far as I can tell, it seems as though your image is worth so much. So people would rarely speak badly of other people because it looks bad on them. It may not always be like as a courteous thing of like, that's not nice to that person. But either way, Japanese people are generally very, very kind, very polite, very complimentary people. And my experiences may be different, of course, to your experiences. I am a white female in this country, so my experiences will differ to yours, of course. I mean, I wasn't planning to make this video at all today. It was just something that happened this morning, and I was like, wow, this is something that I've been thinking about for a while, and it just really confirmed my beliefs about the country right now. So hopefully if you're struggling with something like that, if you're struggling with feeling like people are staring at you and feeling like such an outsider in this country, or wherever you are in the world, maybe not even in Japan, but somewhere else that you are, I understand completely. I can almost guarantee you most people are not even worried about your existence. They're mainly worried about themselves, or they're thinking about something else. They may be looking in your direction. And this isn't like new information at all, but this is kind of just my experiences from living in Japan and learning more Japanese over the years. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you've had any similar experiences, or actually like if you've had a negative experience in Japan. I'd like to hear what was said to you and how you reacted to it, how you felt about the country afterwards. Yeah, there's a lot of bad people in every country, but there's a lot of good people in the world, and maybe I'm just ignorantly blissfully ignorant. But actually, there's a YouTuber, Dogen. He usually does like comedy skits and little like funny, like basically comedy improv, but it's all in Japanese. And he made a video called Sweet Potatoes and Carrots, and it's a perfect analogy for people feeling one way, but actually it's another way. It's a perfect analogy for that. So I'll link that down below, go check it out because it's amazing. Yeah, I'm actually out here. It's in a little town called Kamata. Very cute, very suburban. But I'm here because there's a store called Semi Flagship Tokyo, and it's awesome. There's like this Roppongi festival every year and they use lots of flags and banners and stuff like that for like, it's like fancy designs, and they usually throw them away at the end of the year, but this guy decided to recycle all of them and he makes them into bags and backpacks and wallets and everything like that. And it's really high quality stuff and it looks fancy as all hell and it's just awesome. So I'll link that down below as well. I now have a new backpack and I love it, and it fits my whole tripod in it, and it's waterproof and it's great and it's gonna last me a very, very, very long time. Also, he was just super nice. He went to go change the money that I gave him. He went to 7-Eleven to change it and he bought me a coffee. What a nice man. Anyway, I'll link that down below. That's awesome. And yeah. This was a rambling video and not one that I planned to do, but it was weighing heavy on my heart and I think a lot of people could get something out of it. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, kind of subscribe, and I will see you next time.